it was unconventional what I did. I said, they're going to have to fight a little while. Sometimes you have to let them fight. It's like two kids in a lot. You got to let them fight, and then you pull them apart.
That was the president in Dallas last night, suggesting that Turkey's military assault on the Kurds was a good thing. And here's how the president's former envoy overseeing the fight against ISIS reacted. Brett McGurk tweeting, "This is an obscene and ignorant statement. 200,000 innocent people displaced, hundreds dead, credible reports of war crimes, ISIS prisoners escaping, U.S. evacuating and bombing its own positions or handing them to Russia. 2 kids in a lot?" he asks. The Kurdish forces, America's biggest allies in the fight against ISIS, given 5 days to leave their land or else Turkey will resume its military operation against them. Here's how the president characterized that situation today.
We have ISIS totally under guard. Turkey is also guarding separately. They're watching over everything. So you have the Kurds who we're dealing with and are very happy about the way things are going, I must say. The Kurds, sometimes you have to go through some pain before you can get a good solution, but the Kurds are very happy about it. President Erdogan in Turkey is satisfied with it, and we are in a very strong position.
Joining this conversation, retired 4-star general and NBC military analyst Barry McCaffrey. And at the table here in New York, former DNC senior advisor Doug Thornell. General McCaffrey, let me get to you quickly if I can. We just heard the president of the United States insist that the Kurds were very happy here. We know that is not true. What is your reaction to the president making that false claim before America?
Well, it's simply absurd. It's cruel. It makes him look stupid. It makes him look as if he completely misses the point of ethnic cleansing of the Kurds by the hundreds of thousands fleeing what will turn into a massacre at the hands of Arab militias if they don't run for it. It ignores the fact we abandon our allies who fought for our purpose against ISIS in the Arab areas of Syria. It's simply an appalling statement.
Obviously, the Kurds are not happy. Did the Kurds gain anything? Is there any positive in this for the Kurds? One simple item that they benefit by here. Can you name one?
Not a one. They got turned over to their enemies by the United States with no notice. And by the way, the United States forces on the ground didn't know this was coming either. The real question in my mind, you look at that letter that the president sent Erdogan.
Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool, he wrote.
Yeah, I mean, what was going on? What did he actually think he was achieving? What is the motivation for turning our back on people that contributed enormously to our own national security structure?
Yeah. Rev.
I don't know. I think it deserves a careful analysis by Congress. This appears to be essentially a rogue presidency.
A rogue presidency. Rev, how do you combat a president who is unapologetic about saying things that are demonstrably false again and again? This may be the most clear example yet.
The only way is to remove him, and I think that may end up happening. When you look at the fact, the basis of this whole fight, you're talking about ethnic cleansing. You're talking about people that are fighting that was our greatest allies in the region. You're talking about now this president has delivered a foothold, a strong one at that, for Russia. And he's helped Assad, who's an ally of Russia.
Right.
So this is no little thing. To compare that to some kids fighting in the schoolyard, let them fight it out. When you're talking about ethnic cleansing and having the enemy adversaries of this country get a real foothold in the Middle East, is absurd by anybody's standards. And I think that anybody that even acts like, you can't even joke about this. I mean, we all sometimes do sound bites. There's no sound bite. The seriousness of this, I think, really is appalling.
And you talk about the impulsivity of this president, the lack of strategy, as we talked about, as it relates to Ukraine, the defense there, as it relates to Syria here. Remember that soundbite we played from last night? You heard the president saying, basically, yeah, sometimes you got to let them fight it out, okay? 24 hours earlier, this is what he said.
And President Obama was pure and simply outsmarted. They took Crimea during his term. That was not a good thing. It could have been stopped.
But more importantly, I didn't give him a green light. And if anybody saw the letter, which can be released very easily if you'd like, I could certainly release it. But I wrote a letter right after that conversation, a very powerful letter. There was never given a green light. They've been wanting to do that for years, and frankly, they've been fighting for many, many years.
It's that second soundbite that I wanted to show you there. The president of the United States said, I didn't give him, referring to Erdogan, a green light. That was Wednesday. On Thursday, he said, it's an unconventional strategy. Sometimes you have to let him fight it out. So he said he didn't do it, and then he said he did do it. There was no strategy, and it appears that there wasn't one in the beginning.
Yeah, and that letter he sent to Erdogan is sitting in Erdogan's trash can right now. That's where he threw it, because it was so ridiculous. And I think that's and that is the foreign policy and the national security of this administration. It's all being run by Donald Trump. He's not listening to folks on the military on the ground. He's not listening to the State Department. And he has made this country weaker and has undermined our national security. And I think if you're Democrats and you're looking at prosecuting this argument in an election, this is the first time in years where you have an opportunity to actually go on the offense against a Republican on national security and foreign policy, because there are countless examples of him selling this country out to our enemies.
Mitch McConnell, in an op-ed that published while we were sitting at this table for the Washington Post, writes, withdrawing is a grave mistake. Withdrawing from Syria is a grave mistake. He had been critical before the ceasefire. This is his new statement after the ceasefire. He's no more satisfied with this. General McCaffrey, to you, if I can. We heard from the president earlier this week. He said the situation at the Syrian border was, quote, strategically brilliant. So if it was strategically brilliant, then why was there a need to sanction Turkey and to send the vice president and the secretary of state to rush over to Ankara to try to work on a ceasefire?
Well, Peter, there is not a shred of coherence to any of this stuff. He's making it up. He had a phone call. He absolutely directly allowed the Turks to start their offensive. Had he said, I'm going to send 200 more soldiers to the border, U.S. troops, I'm going to mass air power, they wouldn't have done it. So he green-lighted the thing. It happened. Now these inane statements are coming out that literally have no bearing on reality.
General, he calls them my generals often, right? Everybody is his, in effect, here. You're in that community of generals. You know a lot of these people that now presently serve the president in one form or another. What are they saying to each other, if not publicly, privately, about their concerns about the president's decision-making process as it relates to national security and foreign policy of this kind?
Well, I wouldn't dream of speaking for the active duty military. They're being extremely focused on not looking as if they are being disloyal under the Constitution of the United States, the actual commander-in-chief. And as long as you've given them legal orders, they will follow them. Mm-hmm. They're trying to not leak out statements like Tillerson with he's a moron, blanking moron. So, but I don't think there's any question that the defense establishment, state, Treasury, CIA, DOD, are appalled. There is no process any longer. The National Security Council has gone dark. They're cutting the staff. There's nobody there that even checked the grammar of a letter from one head of state to another about a national security issue. The thing read like it was a fifth grade letter. So, again, the process is gone. And you can take a look at that photo of the cabinet meeting with the press pool and look at the chairman of the JCS with a thundercloud face and his face looking down toward the table.
Yeah,
it's unprecedented.
That was as remarkable in that picture. You saw Nancy Pelosi on one side, the president on the other, and all those members of the military community with their eyes sort of focused on their hands below them there.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.